Hey there, friends. I'm Shamitria, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Math Talk with the Rowdy Math Teacher. Today, I'm talking about one of my other favorite topics, which is math manipulatives. And boy, do I love math manipulatives. I can remember when I was moving out of my classroom, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, helped me bring a U-Haul truck to collect all of my things. And I had 15 to 20 boxes of math manipulatives and math tools, as well as about 8 to 10 Rubbermaid tubs full of all of my math things. So I am certainly a lover of all things math. And math tools and math manipulatives is something that I really enjoy using in the classroom. In fact, I used to collect math manipulatives. So every time I found a different tool, I would buy several bags or containers of it so that I could use it in the classroom with students. But I know that presents a problem for us in this next school year, because the information that we're receiving from our healthcare officials indicate that we need to limit sharing of materials. So I've been seeing a lot of questions and hearing questions from teachers about math manipulatives. We know that it's best practice to use math manipulatives with our kids, but how do we do that safely? So today I kind of want to give you some suggestions. So I know that one of the easiest things that we can do is to just use a simple school box. Right? So the school boxes that we use in the classroom to store materials is a good way for us to store manipulatives for kids. And so you can kind of create each student a little math manipulative kit. I know this isn't very large, and if you have an opportunity to, you might find use with the longer school boxes that might allow you to put more materials in it. That's really going to depend on the grade level that you teach and the types of materials that you have. But using a school box is a great way to do that. Then each student can have their own little math kit. Another strategy that you can use is just to use baggies. And this is actually something that I used to do even when my kids were able to share materials, is I would create little sets of kits, I guess, for each student to use at their desk. So I would take all of whatever I had and just split it up into bags, making sure that each student would have enough materials to do the activities. That made pass out so much easier. I was one of those teachers that liked to have materials out on the desk and ready to go. And so if I had an activity where I didn't know what the students might need, and they might need, more of this, a little less of that, then I would maybe just put a collection of materials on the tables for the students to share. But more often than not, I prefer to have them in bags. And this is also what I used when I taught middle school math, is I would just put things in baggies. So you could, if you have materials that you only use maybe once or twice a year, you could just store them in bags. And then when you get to that unit of instruction, then distribute them to the students. It's probably only a one-time use. They have their separate bag. Maybe they keep it for a couple of days while you're working on that particular activity or that unit. And then they hand those materials in, and you're not planning to use them again for the school year. So that might be a really easy way to keep those materials organized, but not include them in a school box, which, this is a space where I would have all the things that you use regularly, because we know we can't fit in all the materials that we have into the school box. Another idea for how to use baggies, and this is a good transportable one. It reminds me a little bit of book bags, but not as fancy. I'm not sure if you've seen these huge jumbo storage bags at the grocery store, but this is another option for you. So these bags are huge. As you can see, you can fit a lot of materials in here. And it also gives you an opportunity to maybe put like a whiteboard in there. And I think this would actually be a great tool to use as a take-home kit for kiddos if we if we have to begin distance learning after we've already started in-person schooling, or even at the beginning of the school year, if you're starting either a blended learning type of situation where students are doing in-person learning and some out-of-school learning, or if they're doing 100% virtual learning. I was kind of thinking through this the other day, and I was thinking about writing a blog post, giving teachers some guidance on what tools students might benefit from having at home. One of the things I was thinking through, I've been working on ideas to share with teachers about how to have the best virtual learning environments. And there are whiteboard tools out there that you can use to have students respond during a live lesson that you're doing. So you can sign up for the tool, students can have access, and they can write on their board. But I know that it's hard for students to really write on a whiteboard, especially if it's something where they're having to show work. So I thought a really easy tool is if your kiddos have access to a whiteboard at home and dry erase materials, then this would be a great thing to put in the bag for them to have to be able to take home and use, because they can easily write on the board with a dry erase marker, and they can hold it up and show it to you in their webcam. So that's one way that they could respond. So I think that would be a great thing to put in a take-home kit. And then also any other frequently used materials that you have would be great kits to put together for students at the beginning of the school year and find a safe way for students to collect those. I was even thinking, if you work with a school supply company, I know many school districts, the PTA or PTO might have something set up where they can earn some extra funds by creating those school supply kits. And that might be something you want to talk to your PTA or PTO about having those things added. And even if there are manipulatives that you want all of your kids to have, maybe adding those as well. I was thinking back a couple of years ago, we had a new textbook adoption, and we got these really fun consumable math kits that came with the adoption series, and they had a little student sampling of different types of manipulatives. And I thought that would be a great thing to have at this time as well. Just a little kit where every student could have some manipulatives, enough to use at home or enough to use at school. So those are just some things to be thinking about as we're moving into the new school year. How do we organize materials for students in the classroom so that they can be safe in using materials, and we can still utilize these best practices in trying to help kids really make sense of the math, but also having something that's readily available for them to take home. So materials that they can use at home, especially for our kiddos that don't have access to the web. There are some great virtual manipulative sites out there, and I'll be sharing those over the next couple of weeks as well. But we do know that some of our students don't have those tools, and sometimes it's just really nice to have the tool in your hand to be able to manipulate it. Students can always take a screenshot of what they're working on with a phone or another device and submit it if you need to see something that they're doing with manipulatives. That's always an option. All right, those are just some ideas that I wanted to share with you about how to manage your math manipulatives for the upcoming school year. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.